Hi, this is Anita from the Dusty Roads podcast. Recently, I published a book that you can find on Amazon in both an ebook and printed version called A Bus on a Dusty Road, Lessons from Living in Asia. And this book essentially is a compilation of many of the things that I've learned, throughout life or while learned through living life and some of the lessons that I've learned along the way. I hope that if you get a chance that you'll look it up, that you'll read it, and that you'll enjoy it. I hope that you'll be able to learn some of the things from life lessons. I honestly feel that if anyone's going to travel to Asia, it's a great book for you to have as a book to read. I don't say it's the only book you should read, but it's one of the books that you should read that hopefully you can learn some things about life here and give some perspective of life that you would not normally have had. I've decided I'm going to write a second book. And the name of that book is Potholes Along Dusty Roads, Why We Should Embrace Failure. And there's many reasons why I decided to write this book. And first I'm going to talk about why have I decided to write about failure. We as a society, I think, are afraid to talk about failure. We only talk about success. You only need to go on to social media today and, you look at everybody and everybody puts on their best picture. Oh, look at me and everything's so wonderful. I remember once I was on social media and somebody wrote something about like, my husband is just the most wonderful person around and I just love him so much and he's just the greatest guy. I happen to know that same person the day before was complaining about her husband and how much she didn't like him. So people don't always put what's true on social media. That, sometimes they write up and say, oh, my kids are just the most perfect kids in the world when they're not. So we always, especially with social media today, want to put our best face forward. We want everyone to think we're so cool and, oh, look, we're beautiful, we're perfect, our family's perfect, our life's perfect. Oh, look at all these exotic and wonderful places we've traveled and everything is just so perfect. Well, the truth is, life is not perfect. In fact, most of our lives are anything but perfect. They are far from perfect. Our lives, in fact, are essentially, a lot of us, our lives are filled more with failure than they are with success. But we only see the success of people. Rarely do people talk about failure or how to deal with failure. That's what Potholes Along Dusty Roads is not just a book about failure. It's about how throughout the lowest moments of our lives, when we feel like we're failing, we can then reframe our understanding of failure and not mark it down as defeat, but see it as a way for success, because it is only through failure that you succeed. I love the story of Thomas Edison. Thomas Edison, he said that I did not, he said it took him 10,000 failures to discover how to make the light bulb. So in other words, he had to try 10,000 times. I'm sure people were saying, you're crazy. Why do you keep trying? Why are you doing this? Why don't you give up? You're never going to be able to do it. But he didn't. He kept on going and finally he succeeded. We only see him for success, but we don't see him for the many times he failed. In the, introduction of this book, I talk about, I focus on failure, that, the journey it's not about glorifying setbacks or dwelling on, what went wrong. It's about looking at the path forward. It's about looking at how do we take our failure and how do we make it successful. The reason why the book is called Potholes Along Dusty Roads is years ago, we were delivering some supplies up into the mountains, in the mountains of North Vietnam. And we were in this truck, and this truck hit a pothole and it was muddy, and the truck slid. And the only thing that stopped us from going down the mountain to probably our death or at least extreme harm was the cement block. And I've often thought about how sometimes in life, one pothole like this truck can certainly take you off course. And sometimes you get stopped by your death by a cement block. And then you got to figure out, how do I get off that block? How do I get unstuck? Or, sometimes you roll down that mountain and you crash and burn. That, there really is no easy answer in life, that all of these things can happen to all of us in our lives and may happen to us at different times. But then it becomes like, how do we pick ourselves up again? And how do we learn from that? And how do we move forward? And how do we also have a more positive light on failure? Instead of, feeling ashamed of failure, instead of feeling like there's something wrong with us that we failed, how about instead for us saying that, look, here's what I've learned. And because of my failures, I have been able to then become successful. I tell a story then about, how we handle failure is very, very important in life. I remember once saying to somebody, how are you going to handle failure in life? And they said to me, I'll never fail. And I said, no, you will fail. How will you handle failure? You need to decide now, how are you going to handle failure? Because to say that you'll never fail in life is not realistic. Everyone is going to fail in life. Some people will fail in businesses. Some people will fail with money. Some people will fail with relationships. Some people will fail with their children. Some people may fail with health, which is, completely out of their control, but they may have, health issues that they deal with. Everybody in life is going to have something that they're going to have to deal with in some way. So I told the story about this friend that I had in college, and I attended Brigham Young University for my undergraduate work. And while I was there, I had this friend, and we'll call her Sally. And Sally was on a full ride scholarship. She'd been from California. She'd been in the gifted program there, had always gotten straight A's, had never gotten anything except an A. She was on a completely full ride scholarship. Everything was paid for her. And she was basically on her way to success and being able to graduate. Well, one semester, for some reason, she got a B+. She completely freaked out. And she said, I have never gotten a B+ my entire life. And so those of you who don't know what a B+ is, if it was on a scale like 1 to 4, a B+ would be like a 3, a 3 or something like that. So it's not a bad grade. B+ is actually a very acceptable grade. It's actually a good grade to get. But she completely freaked out that she had gotten this B+. And so then she said, well, if I'm going to fail, I might as well fail. And within 2 semesters, I watched Sally go from getting a full ride scholarship to the last semester when she was asked to leave. She had a GPA of 0.75. Now, that's not even a 1 GPA. That was her GPA for that semester. So she was asked to leave the university and not return. I've often thought about this example, and I've thought really how we fail is as important as failure itself. We are all going to fail in life, but deciding how we're going to fail and what we're going to do with that failure does matter in our lives. That is why that if we can learn in our lives to acknowledge and prepare for our setbacks rather than shying away from them, that it can strengthen our resilience and it can foster growth. Because it is only really through failure that you will get to success. Our failures can be transformative lessons that can help us to be successful. They can help to teach us. We can grow and we can tackle life's potholes with grace, and we can emerge stronger with each and every single pothole that we have in life. That is what the book, Potholes Along Dusty Roads, is about. I'm planning to have it be published in early 2025. I will give you more information about the book. There is a blog I've written about that has some of the summary of the first chapter, not the entire first chapter, but kind of gives some of the summary of the chapter. It's called Potholes Along Dusty Roads, Why We Should Embrace Failure. And so if you'd like to be able to read more, we'll put a link into the blog, into our description below. And that hopefully this will help you to be able to see failure in a new light. I often joke and say, I failed so much, I'm an expert in failure. And, but there's a lot of truth to that, but it's only through my failures that I've been able to learn, to grow, and to be able to have any type of success. So our failures can help us become successful. I'd like to thank you so much for listening to our podcast. We hope that you've enjoyed it and that you'll be part of our community, that you'll give us a thumbs up, you'll subscribe to us. Stay tuned next month. We will give another chapter of our book. We'll talk some more about our book as we're going along throughout the year. So if you've enjoyed this about learning some things about failure, if it's made you think about some things about failure, that you will join with us to be able to learn more about how you can learn to deal with failure better in your life. Because face it, we all have failure in our lives, and it's all something that we need to learn to deal with better. Thank you so much for being part of our community. We know without you, this would not be possible. If you want to check out our book, again, our book is A Bus on a Dusty Road, Life Lessons Living in Asia. We'll put a link in the description also for that book where you can find it on our website, and that we hope that you will join with us and be part of our community. Thank you.